dude. Just like you pull in and you just get spit right out of them.
Okay, well, welcome to the Carve Up, episode 4. Harrow and Silky on the desk. Silks, how you been, mate?
Very well, mate. Very well. How about yourself?
Great, another big week. And joining us this week on the desk from the Northern Beaches, Brookvale is where his factory is Nick Miles from Sculpt Surfboards. How you doing, mate?
How you going, gents?
Very good.
Great, mate. So tell us, the X-Core Reactor blank is what you're here to discuss today, but give us a little bit of a rundown of how this all came about and your background as a surfboard shaper.
Yeah. So basically, I was a mechanic and I just hated it. Wasn't a great job. Always loved to surf. I started at another factory, which was a technology-based sort of surfboard brand. And, I just worked real hard there and started managing the factory at FutureFlex. And just, worked there for quite some time, and there were issues there with breakage, things like that. And when I left, I started to think about, how I could have solved those problems. And a lot of the issue was that the bearing members, the stringers, are on the rail with things like that, the FutureFlex, and this brings the stringers under feet, so you've got the strength where you need it, and then you've got flex out the nose and tail where you want it. So a lively board and then a strong board.
When you say flex, like I've seen some of the footage of you when you've got the blanks, and there's a huge amount of flex in both the nose and tail.
Yep.
How do you manage that?
So basically, that was the blank before it's been glassed. So when it gets glassed, it does stiffen it up and bring it into a more manageable sense.
Yep.
But another person who I've drawn a lot of inspiration from was Mick Mackey, and he does a lot of flex tails. So it's a really similar concept. It's just way less extreme. So basically, when you've got that extra flex out of the tail and the nose, the board can make the same shape of the turn you're trying to do, and that gives you a lot of drive through the turn, which is something that I learned a lot about from Greg Webber as well when I was, just chatting to him about boards, basically.
Well, mate, tell me, a traditional surfboard, the stringer is straight down the middle. So what you've done is turned it into 3 pieces, and you can see here the outline of where the stringers are now. So,
correct.
Mate, how did you come up with that concept?
I don't remember the exact time, but basically what I was trying to do is get the bearing members from the outside to the middle, because the materials work really well. We've got the EPS core, which is the same, which is a really good lively foam for when the waves are pretty lackluster, and then carbon fibre versus wood, you can imagine the flex differentiation. It's much more twangy, much more lively. It brings a lot to the board. So a lot of that's where it came from. And then having the concept of wanting the extra flex out the nose and tail, that's basically where it comes from. You need it to finish before the nose and tail, so you start before then, you want it to be under the feet, it comes into the centre. So basically it was about getting the strength where you needed it and then the flex where you want it, so it's just a natural sort of progression, really.
Talk us through the process. So you get, like, I guess, a normal blank, and you separate into 3 separate parts. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so basically we had to, we used to do them all with this handmade, like handheld cutter. So basically we've made a cutter now that's more like a bandsaw. And what you can't see when you look at them from this side is that the stringers actually run through the blank on an angle. It's not upright like a normal stringer. And when something's upright like that, it needs to twist to flex upwards and downwards. So because it's on the angle, it flexes really well up and down. Basically we split it into 3 pieces. And then we've got 3 pieces of foam. We lay the unidirectional carbon fibre. So all the carbon fibre strands run nose to tail, because that's the flex we're trying to oppose. And then it also, when it curves out towards the rail, it's opposing that flex. So it's a good torsional flex as well. It stops the board from twisting because it ends up having those opposing carbon fibre stringers. And then so we lay the carbon in there, obviously laminate it in with epoxy resins, and then glue it back together.
Wow. So, mate, you've got your own brand, Sculpt.
Yep.
But you're selling these blanks to big brands all around the world. You've got a Simon here.
Yep.
Mate, tell us about the other brands that have taken this technology on.
Yeah, I used to do quite a few boards with Chile, and then Simon's the latest guy to take it on. It's really good, working with the guys at Onboard Store. They seem to be really passionate about it. Simon's liking them too, it's really good.
Greg Webber too.
Yeah, Greg Webber, too, yeah. So, yeah, Greg's done quite a few, and he's shaped them for some high-profile people, so that's pretty cool to get that.
So that's my next question. Who's ridden them? Like, what pros or what feedback have you had from any of the pros?
Yeah, Mitch Colborn's ridden them, Cooper Chapman's ridden them, and good feedback from both. Quite a few guys, yeah.
And, mate, tell us, is it more of a like a beach break or a point break? With the feedback, is it a better for grovelers or a step up or your normal board? What are you seeing there? The people that are ordering these blanks, what kind of board are they ordering?
So we actually offer different densities in the foam as well. So this one's a UF, Ultra Flare, and that's really good for beach breaks because it's light, it's flexy, it just gives you that energy when the waves have none, basically, which is what we get in Sydney, where we all live. And then we've got a UC density, Ultra Carve, and that's just a little bit denser, so it's just a little bit more controlled, carves through the water a bit better, the waves are a bit choppy, a bit more powerful. You can really get the board carving through the water. It doesn't feel so skittish, which is what you normally get from a lot of EPS boards. So, yeah, the stringers actually have a more controlled flex than just that surface-mounted carbon. So when you've got foam on both sides of the carbon, it's a lot stronger than just having foam on one side and then glass on the other side, because when you've got just glass on one side, it's really easy for the carbon fibre to compromise, just the same way as a glass job would. It's just an extension of a glass job, whereas with the X-Core, it's embedded in the core, so you've got two separate things working with strength and flex. You've got the core working at it, and then the skins as well, which is generally the strongest part of the board.
And the third model?
The third model?
Did you say there's a third model?
We've got two densities of foam, but we have worked on. We used to have a third density, but we found that these two were the main ones that we were using, and we have experimented with a bi-core, which is two foams in the one core. So it's the light EPS down the centre, and then what we had was extruded polystyrene, which is the same material but expanded in a different way. So it's extruded rather than expanded. And it's really, really strong, super strong, but it feels more like PU, polyurethane to surf, so it gives you that control on the rail, and then you've got the liveliness through the centre and the strength of the X-Core.
So let me ask you, is this the future of boards as we know it? Is this the end of the traditional wooden stringer down the centre of the board? Is this the future of board riding?
Yeah, I think the wooden stringer will always have a place, to be honest. I think, you're talking about ways like Jaws and things like that. You've got so much glass on the board, and the way you look at the way those guys are surfing, and I haven't ridden one of those waves, so it's a bit hard to imagine. But yeah, I think that wooden stringer and all that glass, I mean, that's doing a job, and they're heavy and they cut through the water, and they seem to be doing a really good job of that. But for beach breaks, and you're sort of intermediate to good surfer, even upper level beginner will just get so much more out of something like this in their everyday surf.
Mate, tell us, just going off from blanks, let's talk about fins for a little bit with your brand Sculpt.
Yep.
3 fins versus 4 fins.
Yep.
Mate, is it coming on more and more, or is that fade gone?
I think it's more like a 5-fin option is the main thing. Having that option in the one board. I mean, I don't do it in everything, but definitely there's shapes where having the 5-fin option is great because it adds a whole different element to a board. Like, fins are so important to boards, so even if you've got a thruster and you change a fin setup, it can change a board so much. So if you've got that 5-fin option, you've got your thruster setup, you've got the quad setup. There's even a little nubster that you can get now to ride with quads. It feels somewhere in between. It's really good. So I don't think it's a fad at all. I think it adds so much to boards, especially small summary boards, which is kind of the topic we're talking about.
Now the big question, mate, that everyone wants to know: what's the damage?
The damage varies between shapers. So, it's basically we're a wholesale company and we sell to the shapers, and then they manage their retail price. So as you'd imagine, the same way boards vary, it's the same with brands. They've built their brand and they deserve a bit more money.
Give us a ballpark.
Yep.
Give the listeners something.
Yeah, between sort of $950 to $1,200 seems to be the mark, yeah.
All right, mate. So Sculpt Surfboards, where can people catch you, mate? What's your contacts?
We're obviously on the internet, www.sculptsurfboards.com, and you can find us in the back of Brookie on Old Pittwater Road.
You're on the carve up. Back in a sec. Welcome back. You're on the Carve Up, and joining us on the line from SwellNet for our Around the Grounds swell forecast, Craig Brokensha. Craig, welcome, mate.
How are you, Silky?
Very well. Now, before we kick off with the swell forecast, wouldn't mind just getting your thoughts on the wave. Well, we don't know where it is, but Rip Curl Search and Mick Fanning setting the internet alight this week.
Well, that's it. Similar to Kelly when he dropped his wave pool, Mick and Rip Curl have just blown up the internet again with this right-hander. I still haven't figured out where it is yet. I haven't had too much time to sit down, but God, it's places thrown around from Africa to the Caribbean, Mozambique. It's kept everyone kind of guessing.
Well, mate, I'm sure we'll find out eventually. But let's hop straight into the forecast. Let's kick it off in Queensland, mate. Any waves there this weekend?
Queensland, you're going to be grovelling a bit. There's not much. There's a little east trade swell, a bit of northern wind swell, but only 2-4. With northerly winds, you're just going to have to hit up the back beaches in the morning.
What about New South Wales? I know Harrow's up there at Newcastle for the Board Riders Battle, which is on this weekend. Can we expect some waves up Newcastle way?
So Newcastle will get waves. There's like an inconsistent southeast swell and a bit of northeast wind swell. They'll come around the corner. But besides Saturday morning, when it'll be offshore, it's just going to be onshore up for them. So they're going to be grovelling a bit. But down around Manly, Maroubra, Saturday morning, looking at clean 3-foot northeast wind swell. And then the rest of the weekend's kind of junky onshore and not too flash weather.
What about the rest of the country? Kick it off in Victoria.
Well, the Southern Ocean's really fired up this week. We've got big southwest swell hitting Vico, SA, Tasmania this weekend. It's going to build through Saturday, peak overnight and East Sunday. And Surf Coast Reefs, Saturday morning and Sunday morning should be firing. So experienced surfers, head down there. Going to Tassie, Clifton should build a 2 to 3 foot on Saturday, offshore, then ease from 2 to 3 foot Sunday. Well, the East Coast will offer a little south-southeast swell on Saturday morning with 2 to 3 foot waves, offshore winds. The West is again going to be the peak of the week. They're just copying another big swell Friday, should easily get to 10 foot, and with offshore winds, but then I'll ease all weekend from 6 to 8 foot, straight offshore Saturday morning. Perth should have a 2 foot wave, and then Sunday morning back to 4 foot around Margie's, and good winds all day.
Well, there you have it, people. Around the Grounds with SwellNet's Craig Brokensha. Craig, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Silky. Catch ya.
There you go. You're on the Carve Up.